Well, kia ora and welcome everybody. Welcome to our October Techbytes. Great to be back with you. If you haven't met me before, you haven't seen me around, Craig Young, I'm the CEO of 2Ns, have been now for 8 years actually. It's my eighth year anniversary this month, so I'm still enjoying it, I think. No, I am enjoying it. It's been great. And today I'm really pleased to be talking to Brooke Roberts. Brooke is and I'm going to go through it, the co-CEO, co-founder and director of Sharesies, and it's good to talk again, Brooke, because you took part in our 2019 Future of Work conference in Wellington when we could meet in person. And I was checking back, and it was actually almost the same time during the year as it was October in 2019. So welcome. Good to see you.
Great to see you, and congrats on 8 years.
Yeah, it's a fair chunk of time, eh? Hey, and a lot has changed over those couple of years since you talked to us at the Future of Work conference. Would you mind introducing yourself just a little bit, including, what you are doing at Sharesies at the moment and any other thing that you're involved with?
Yeah, kia ora koutou, ko Brooke Tukungawa. I'm one of the co-founders, co-CEOs, and directors at Sharesies. There's six of us that founded Sharesies nearly 6 years ago, wow, this month, which time has flown. And now, they've got a team based here in Te Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington, Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and also Sydney.
That's cool. 6 years. I can't believe that time's gone so quickly. And it's interesting you're in Sydney. I'm off to Sydney later this month. Airline ticket prices are expensive at the moment, aren't they? It's costing me twice as much to go than it was in 2019. So look, I've had to think about this. You've had quite a journey to get to this spot, if your LinkedIn profile is anything to go by. So through that journey, what were some of the key skills you learned or experiences you had on your journey before you started at Sharesies?
Yeah, trying to think where to start with my journey. So I grew up here in Aotearoa and the North Island and Manurewa, Tauranga, Hawke's Bay, and then moved to Te Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington for university. I also did a little stint in the States for 4 years when I was in my pre-teens and early teens, which was a bit of fun. It wasn't really until I was at high school actually that I started to see how I could channel all my energy. I've been quite energetic child that was not that good in classroom situations, I guess, when you just wanted to get up and get out, and I needed to sit there and do all the learning. I think they teach quite differently these days, which would have proven quite good for me. But it wasn't until high school that I was able to start channeling that energy and that passion I had into something. And that's when I started to create businesses. I had done a few things when I was younger, trying to earn some money on the side. But it was at high school, I asked my business studies teacher if I could start a business, had this idea. She was keen as to support me, which was awesome. And she then also said, there's this thing out there called Young Enterprise, which we didn't have at our school at the time, which is like, maybe we could bring that. And so we brought Young Enterprise to our school, and I did that for a couple of years and really enjoyed that. Thought I'd just continue running businesses because I really learned so much, and actually still reflect on a lot of the learnings I had back when I was at high school. But then last minute decided to go to university, studied marketing, international business, ended up picking up finance. Stoked I did, because I really enjoyed learning about the wider economy and how investing works and how that works on a global stage, and think that really set me up well in terms of channeling that energy again. And then I think at university I started to go, oh, maybe there's more that I need to learn in this space, and go into a bit of the corporate world while I still have a go at businesses on the side. But at that time, it felt like I had to choose. I had to choose marketing or finance. Like the schools were very separate. The way the teachers thought were really separate. I remember one of the lecturers saying to me, a finance lecturer going, "What are you studying marketing for anyway? You're just going to learn how to stock shelves." And it's like, whoa, it's a very crucial part of being able to create a company that, and being able to talk to people and understand how, the products and services could impact their lives and what that all, I just saw that there was so much to be able to pull these worlds together, but I didn't really know how. And then I got introduced to a leader who was leading in the finance area, but also had a strong marketing background. I was like, you can combine these somehow, and fell into product management, which I really enjoyed in banking, and did that for a number of years. And then I worked at Xero, where I got to be able to see how to take a company that was started here in Aotearoa global, and learned a lot about how to run a global business from watching that and being part of that. And in the meantime was looking at ideas on the side, felt like there was something in the fintech space that I could potentially add some value, or really wanted to see disruption. Got connected with Sonia through later my husband, those are two of the co-founders, and then 6 of us co-founders got together around this idea that everybody deserves an equal opportunity to grow their wealth, and there's just no reason that someone with $5 or 5 million can't have the same money opportunities with the technology available today. So we decided to combine our heads, come together and talk to people for over 6 months, just really listening and learning about what money meant to them, and if they wanted to be an investor, and ultimately had the impetus to quit our day jobs and get into creating Sharesies.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I picked up in there. For example, one thing, you always had something going on as a bit of a side hustle. So is that right? You always had a bit of a side hustle somewhere along the line?
I was always, they've got a graveyard of domain names and company registrations. I was always trying and watching and learning and exploring, and but never had found the thing that really captivated and felt like it would be my life's work until Sharesies came about.
And did I hear right, and you can agree with me or disagree with me, that as you went through those roles within corporate, Xero and banking, you were picking up skills, but you were also being very proactive at thinking about what those skills you were picking up and how they were going to help you develop something of your own come the future, rather than just sitting in the role. Does that resonate?
Yeah, I was always watching and observing and asking questions and listening. And I think the biggest part that I learned that I really was channeling was leadership, like really learning how do all the different leadership styles I could see, and what worked and what didn't. And, when I started a company, what would I want to see in that company and what would I not? And it was really great to have those experiences, and I would be acutely observing and seeing what worked, what didn't, why things worked. And now being in this, having, been part of the leadership of Sharesies for the last 6 years, it's really interesting the perceptions I have now of those leadership styles. Like back then I was like, oh, why do they do that? And I'm like, oh, I see why they did that, So I was always very interested in how the actual business functioned and how the people worked together and how they were corralled around a purpose, and just constantly wanting to learn and be curious in the environment I was in.
I don't know about you, but it's probably some of those days in corporate life where you also learned things that you perhaps wouldn't or shouldn't do when you got your own business as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think in any life, I actually didn't feel like I was in a corporate at any of those. They really felt like high growth companies when I was at Xero and also at Kiwi Bank and even AJ Park and GS1 New Zealand. I always felt that sense of getting closer to the purpose and the growth. But I mean, when I look back into when you start your startup, you're like, okay, yep, they've got a few more things got sorted out than us. So definitely probably more in that corporate category, but I didn't feel like they were.
Yeah. One of the comments you just made, but it's also in your profile, about this belief that everyone deserves the opportunity to grow with their wealth, and investing should be accessible to everyone. I wonder about what values of yours drove that perspective. And then particularly about its applicability to women who, I mean, I haven't seen any research on this because I've, focused in on tech, but I guess that they are less engaged in this form of investing than men. I might be putting might be completely wrong in that, but have you got a perspective on that?
I definitely have a perspective on that, but
Go on.
I'll start with your first question there in terms of what was the first part again?
The values that drove
exactly.
you.
Yeah. I grew up seeing two worlds. I grew up seeing a world where I was the only child and there was disposable income around. And then I also grew up in a world where I was one of five and it was really hard to make ends meet. And I just saw starkly the difference in opportunities that are created from having access to wealth and income and money, essentially. On one side you can go to dance classes, on the other you're hoping that things can be met by the end of the week. So I saw both worlds and I always was like, why aren't these closer? Why isn't there more equitable opportunities? And that's just my perspective. It is step back, there's this big K recovery or K economy, not even recovery, K-shaped economy going on at the moment, where those that have a bit at the moment, you've got a bit of wealth, you can develop that because money grows money. But it's harder to have that money in your life, it can get harder and harder and harder. It's like this downward spiral, upward spiral, and that needs to be condensed. And there needs to be more opportunity for people to have access to developing wealth and creating the opportunities and the futures they want. Ultimately, society will flourish from that. And that is something that really did corral all of us early on. Our values at Sharesies are really about being in it together, having a real collective culture and feeling that a real sense of one team, because knowing that, I get to be here and talk to you today, but I'm here representing all of Sharesies. I'm not Sharesies, and it's not with these recognitions that come for Sharesies and feeling part of a real connected team. And then always really caring about each other, caring about our investors. Sometimes as companies grow, they can get a bit more internally focused and miss what's really happening out there. So feeling really connected to our investors and how we can support them even more on their wealth development journeys. And when I say investors, I mean customers. And then chase remarkable. What are ways that we can add that cherry on top, really change the game, really create the world that we want to see and work together to really create lovable experiences. So those are the values that drive us at Sharesies. And, the impact we do.
I've written down chase remarkable because I think that's a really cool way of putting that. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
It's always a chase. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the perception that women are less likely to invest is, I would say, so much put on the structures that have been around. I remember growing up and hearing stories from my nana about when she went to the bank, she'd always have to take her partner or man with her to get to be listened to, or not even for her to be listened to, but to talk through. But she was the wheeler and dealer, and I think there's just so many aspects in the past that have made the system less friendly to others and more male dominated, essentially. But that is changing, and we see really strong female representation of those that identify as female on our platform, and we see growing demand there, and we see a growing change in society of money being less taboo, and that means that more people are sharing and opening up about what's happening in their lives and with money. And with that sharing, more knowledge comes available, and social media or access to information has really increased recently too. So those barriers are starting to be removed, and there's a long history of that being left out that needs to be changed. That is starting to change, and so I think that's something that's going to be quite important. And often it's seen as, women are less, more risk adverse and things like that. Well, actually, we just did research and shows that it's exactly not the case. there's research out there that shows that women are more likely to be a buy and hold investor, where they buy investments that they really care about and they'll hold them. And there's research out there that also proves that that's a really strong investing strategy in the long term too. So there's a lot of change happening.
Oh, look, I'm old enough to remember being taken as a school child to see the New Zealand Stock Exchange floor in Wellington with the chalkboard, and the only women in the room were the two that were doing the chalk, actually doing the chalkboard. And to be able to get into shares, you had to get an account with a broker, and then you just swapping pieces of paper, and your trade might take days and things. So yeah, it's amazing. Platforms like yours are democratizing, those sorts of discussions. And the comment you made about there's less taboo about talking about money is really important as well. What you do with your kids. I mean, with my kids, we talked with them about money right from the beginning. Yeah. And just talking about kids, I'd want to come back to your journey, because on the profile you sent through, you did proudly list that you're a mum of two, and I know we have a lot of our young women in particular listen to this. I mean, it's a perennial question that I never got asked, but women get asked, which is, how do you balance all those aspects of your life with so much going on?
Yeah, definitely is a question we get asked. There's a lot of interesting assumptions sometimes in those questions, but ultimately there is, I feel quite fortunate to have been able to, have this family that we've got, and be able to actually be based in Whanganui-o-Tara, knowing that I'm only ever 15 minutes away from them. And I think structures like that really help when the opportunity cost of time really has changed for Layden and I. And I always find it kind of a hard question to answer, because when you've got passion and purpose and drive and deep love and care, it kind of finds its way. And I don't know if it's a balance. Probably my friend describes it, but more of a blur. And I kind of relate to that. There's not Brooke at Sharesies and Brooke at home. I'm all one person, and my kids will come into work, or I'll go. I think it all just blurs together, and I'm happy with that for me, because I also know when to put boundaries in, and know that old analogy of what are glass balls and what are rubber balls, what are things that I'll never drop because they could smash, versus other ones that could bounce back if I just didn't do that today or this week or this month. I'm
just sort of wondering also, I mean, it's just I haven't thought much about this, whether the pandemic changed some of that as well. Maybe not for you because you're already in that situation, but I'm still having team meetings with my team where their kids are coming into the room, etc., because we do that now. It's just the way it is, right? And you don't miss a beat. You say hi and then you continue on. It's just that's who you are. And I think that's actually not a bad thing, actually. I mean, we all learnt about our pets, didn't we?
That's true. And we got to get to know each other in our lives and our homes, and build that empathy and understanding for the whole person a bit more too. And I think that BBC image of that man being interviewed and then hushing his child away. I think having that before the pandemic was probably good for some people to go, actually, that's not how I will do it, and we'll find a way of embracing that and accepting that. And so I don't know if that played into it, but it was. Our lives became a bit closer in that moment, and we were all, had this similar anxieties and worries about what was happening in the world and what would happen to our families and what would happen to the community, and how we'd all get through it financially, or get food at home, or toilet paper. That there was all of that we were collecting around. And I like that I see now that people are thinking differently about how they work, and having that hybrid approach. There's a lot of benefits of going into work, into the office, if people are in office work, and being able to connect and be with others and share and inspire each other, and push the projects or things that are working on forward, and also making sure they could do that in a way that means that they can be the type of parents they want to be, or, you know, have that shared responsibility. I've noticed a lot more now too.
Yeah, or in my case, to be the grandparent you want to be. I'm getting old now. Can we just take that a little bit further? Because you are a leader in tech. I mean, Sharesies is a fintech development. I mean, what words of advice would you give to young women in particular who are looking at tech or startups in tech as some advice?
We need way more in tech and STEM. Fantastic, and keep pushing through. And there's support and connections out there. I think I'm really stoked, as I've been on this journey in tech, that there's been so many people that have out there to support, or associations now where you can get insights, you know, meetups, whatever it might be. There's a lot of ways you can build your crew and your support network as you go through your career or start to decide to run your own company. And that is so fundamental for the resilience and the finding the way through tough times that can happen if you're running your own company, or even in your own career as things pop up. And I'm excited for more people to get into tech, especially tech for good, businesses that are really creating a social environmental change. I would love to see more and more of that here in Aotearoa, and there's some incredible examples of businesses in that space already, and I think that could be, and I know others do too, a really strong position for Aotearoa globally too. There's heaps of opportunities to connect, so exciting times for them.
We know that there's not enough women, there's not enough Māori and Pacifica in the technology space, and we're not telling the stories to our kids about why doing tech or being involved in some sort of digital way is cool and worth it. Because I mean, the TEC did their research last year, and most kids want to be a sports star. So, you know, there's got to be more stories we can tell them about what we can do. Look, I'm going to just land on this last big question, which is, as an entrepreneur in technology and in develop, you know, you're exporting, you're now in Australia. We have this aim, or we, 2Ans, has this aim of New Zealand being in the top 10 digital ready nations by 2030. What big ideas do you think we should be focusing on?
Top 10 digital ready.
Yeah, so we, you know, if you look at nations like Singapore and Finland, you know, or Estonia, we want to be like them, in my mind, anyway. So is there anything in particular you think we ought to be thinking about to get us to that position? Because we're certainly not there at the moment.
And when you say like them, in terms of the amount of tech startups, or the access to digital devices, or the investment into technology, like, you know,
if you're going to be digital ready, it's holistic, it's across the board. It's about equity, it's about access, it's about startups, and it's about access to finance. Thanks for throwing the questions back at me. So it's all about those things. But you know, no, that's all right.
Just help me out.
Yeah. So as a startup, you know, is there something New Zealand should be doing to, you know, make sure that people like you are successful and you bring others along in the journey?
In Aotearoa, we have so many strengths and so much we can learn from too, and relearn in terms of where we're the whenua, like where we're based. There's so much for us to be really open to in terms of te ao Māori and the aspects, the way of thinking, I think, that we could really all benefit from, and if we just listened and relearned and you know, really learned the history, I think, of Aotearoa. And in saying that, you know, we are a country that do fundamentally care. We care about people. We saw that in our response recently, and we we've got a lot of pride too. There's a lot of stuff to be proud of here, and we're historically incredible innovators and entrepreneurs. And how can we collectively share on a world stage that we're the place where tech for good is the benchmark, where every company here that's in tech space is really driving thinking about stakeholders, not just shareholders, driving social or environmental change, and really connecting to people and place. And that's something that I think is more innate in us, and we could really, really catapult that. And I think that would mean so much more talent coming in from New Zealand too, and from Aotearoa, of people going, hey, that's a thing, that's where I want to put my time, that's where I want to drive the change. I've actually got those skills because I understand technology. Especially the rangatahi, the youth, that there's a lot more access to technology now, and there's a growing need also. But that's a space I feel like there's a lot that could be crafted and could really catapult. See that it's a big sector here that needs a lot more investment and a lot more access to equity.
We had this awesome presentation at last year's 2Ns conference from Kylie Reri about how Te Ao Māori was New Zealand's superpower, and I thought that was just such a great thought and a great way to think about it. Hey, look, thanks so much for your time. You got any last comments? Oh, yeah?
Oh, Kylie is an incredible friend of mine, and inspires me so much, and drives me. So that's really cool to hear. And it's great that she did that.
Any last comments or thoughts you want to share before we finish up our chat?
No, just thanks heaps for your time.
That's all right. Well, thank you very much, Brooke, for giving up your time, because I know you're incredibly busy. So very thankful to you. I just want to do a shout out before we finish out to the Black Ferns, who are kicking off this weekend, the World Cup. I'm very excited to be watching that. And if you are listening to this, there are 2 previous sessions for Techbytes where we've talked to Sarah Hirini when she came back from the Olympics and winning the gold medal 7. So, you can go back and listen to that one. And then a couple of months ago, we talked to Angela Nash, who's the CIO at New Zealand Rugby, about the World Cup as well. So if you're listening to this, well, as I said, they kick off this weekend, so you've got a chance to go and listen to them. But other than that, mā te wā, and thank you, Brooke.
Kia ora.